Chapter 7. Chapter Master Volux gestured toward one of the ornate chairs surrounding the tactical display, his massive emerald power armor catching the light as he moved. The bull-headed helm with its impressive horns sat sentinel beside them, its red-eye lenses dark but somehow still watchful. "Sit, brother." The chapter master's volcanic voice softened slightly, though his imposing presence still dominated the war room. His right power fist, with its integrated flamer, moved in a welcoming gesture that belied its devastating combat potential. Captain Zavas settled into the indicated seat, his ceremonial robes arranging themselves around him, the dragon pattern swimming through their cloud surroundings as the fabric settled. The three golden implants in Volux's forehead caught the candlelight as the chapter master's charcoal features took on a more contemplative expression, his ebony skin reflecting the dim illumination of the tactical displays. Despite his own massive size, Volux still towered over the seated captain, his emerald armor a testament to their chapter's artificing excellence. The weight of command and generations of Nocturne's legacy seemed to fill the space between them as they prepared to discuss what lay ahead. The whispers in Zavas's mind continued their constant murmur, but here in the presence of his chapter master, they seemed more distant, as if showing proper respect for the chain of command. Captain Zavas's augmetic eye whirred at his chapter master's words. The massive figure of Volux in his emerald power armor stood before him, the three golden implants in his forehead gleaming as he laid out this unexpected proposal. "I am putting together a strike team for deep reconnaissance, and I want you to head it up." Volux's volcanic voice resonated through the war room. When Zavis began to raise his hand, the chapter master's right power fist, its integrated flamer catching the candlelight, moved in a silencing gesture. "I know what you're going to say, and no, it's not in order," Volux continued, his ebony features softening slightly despite his imposing presence. "I need someone I can trust, and that the men respect." The bull-headed helm on the tactical display seemed to watch their exchange, its horns casting long shadows across the room. "You don't need to make a decision now, Captain. Enjoy your shore leave and get back to me when you have made a decision." The dragons on Zavas's ceremonial robes coiled thoughtfully as he absorbed the weight of Volux's words. The chapter master's charcoal skin, darkened by the fires of their homeworld Nocturne, bore an expression of both command and understanding, the perfect balance their chapter strived to maintain. The whispers that had plagued Zavas's mind seemed to quiet momentarily, as if allowing him space to consider this crucial decision. His commander's massive frame in that ancient emerald armor stood patient, waiting, knowing the significance of what he had just proposed. Captain Zavas rose from his seat as they felt the massive battle barge shudder to a halt with a loud thud, the docking clamps engaging with their port. The dragons on his ceremonial robes swirled as Chapter Master Volux, towering in his dark emerald power armor, regarded him with his ebony features. "It appears we have arrived, Captain." "Dismissed." The Chapter Master's volcanic voice resonated through the war room, his charcoal skin seeming to absorb the dim light, while the three golden implants in his forehead caught the candlelight. His massive frame, larger than any other space marine, stood resolute as he delivered the dismissal. The ornate bull-headed helm with its impressive protruding horns sat silent witness on the tactical display as Zavas gave a formal salute. The chapter master's twin power fists, the right one modified with its integrated flamer, hung at his sides, a reminder of both his martial might and artificer's precision. As Zavis turned to leave, the sounds of the ship's docking procedures echoed through the corridors, mixing with the whispers that still haunted his thoughts. The weight of Volux's offer about the reconnaissance team pressed on his mind as heavily as the mysteries that awaited them in the Nephilim sector. Behind him, the chapter master's imposing silhouette, a true son of Nocturne in his glittering emerald armor, remained in the war room, contemplating the challenges that lay ahead for their chapter. The Imperial Port 227 sprawled across the planet's surface like a mechanical lotus, its massive docking arrays reaching skyward in concentric rings. Each layer served a distinct purpose in this vital hub of imperial commerce and military might. The upper docking arrays dominated the highest levels, where massive battle barges and Imperial Navy vessels rested in their berths like sleeping giants. Huge adamantium docking clamps held vessels secure, while elaborate loading mechanisms and fuel lines sustained them. Tech priests moved between the ships, their red robes bright against the dark metal as they performed blessing rituals and maintenance rites. Below, the merchant district bustled with constant activity. Traders from across the sector haggled over goods in sprawling marketplaces, while guild factors negotiated contracts in ornate offices. The air filled with the smell of exotic spices and burning incense, mixing with the ever-present scent of machinery and promethium. Servitor laborers trudged between warehouses while merchants' guards kept watchful eyes on valuable cargo. The residential area occupied the middle rings, where crew members on shore leave found lodging in hab blocks built to imperial specifications. Taverns and feast halls catered to off-duty personnel, while shrines to the emperor provided spiritual sustenance. Medicae facilities stood ready to tend to the needs of visitors, their white-robed staff ever vigilant. At the heart of it all stood the military compound, a fortress within a fortress. Heavy defense batteries scanned both ground and sky, while armored checkpoints controlled all access. Inside its thick walls, barracks housed Imperial Guard regiments, while monitoring stations tracked every vessel in the system. Ammunition depots and vehicle pools stood ready for rapid deployment, while training grounds rang with the sounds of combat practice. Throughout all districts, security remained omnipresent. Arbite's patrols moved in practiced patterns, while servitor guns tracked potential threats. Purity scanners and identity checkpoints regulated movement between zones, ensuring that port protocols were strictly maintained. Above it all, void shields shimmered faintly, ready to protect this vital Imperial installation from any threat, whether from space or surface. The crew of the Sword of Dawn made their way down the massive docking ramps, the transition from ship's artificial gravity to planetary pull immediately apparent. Chapter serfs stumbled slightly, their bodies adjusting to the shift after months in void travel. Support staff grabbed handrails, their movements uncertain as their inner ears struggled to adapt to the natural gravitational field. "Sea legs," Brother Tiberius chuckled, his ancient power armor compensating automatically for the change. Just like the old sailing ships of Terra. The veteran's voice carried both amusement and understanding as he watched younger crew members adjust their stance. Captain Zavis descended the ramp, the dragons on his ceremonial robes flowing more heavily in the increased gravity. His augmetic eye whirred as it calibrated to the new environment, while around him, his brothers moved with practiced ease, their power armor's machine spirits making minute adjustments to their movement patterns. "Steady now," called out a deck officer to his crew. "Take it slow until you find your balance." Some of the younger serfs laughed nervously as they wobbled, their bodies remembering what it meant to walk under real gravity after so long in the void. The older crew members, veterans of countless port calls, moved more carefully, having learned from experience that the first few hours of planetfall required extra caution. They guided their younger companions, sharing age-old tricks for managing the transition. "Don't worry," an ancient service servitor droned as it steadied a stumbling technician. "Neural recalibration typically completes within 6.7 hours of planetary gravity exposure.